Hello, punters, and welcome to the 2025 new season of the Foxcatcher Racing Show. My name's Julian Valance, joined for the first time in a long time by Nic Ashman from Sydney. He's made it all the way down to the Melbourne studio. How are you, pal? Now, firstly, how are you, and how was that flight?
Well, I'm good. Good to be working with you again,
Yes.
mate. Flight down, 21C was my seat. Let's just say there was a bit of overspill from 21B. So we were racing tight. Stewards probably have a look at the footage, but I elected not to fire in an objection. So
You handle those things really well too, so I'm
usually
sure
I don't, but I think I've grown a bit as a man since last time we worked together.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good, and it has been a while, but good to have you on board. I know the Foxcatcher team are really excited to get you involved, and we get the New South Wales set from you now. So there's a lot to look forward for this year, and we're going to go very, very slowly to how we go through this. But
That's not like you.
You know what we're going to start with?
What?
The track intel.
Well, let me give it to you. Randwick on Saturday?
Yes, please.
Let's have a look. Apollo Stakes meeting. Via Sistina, she's back in action. So the rail's out 4 metres. Now, there's up to about sort of 13 mil of rain forecast.
Okay.
That has dropped down from 17 on Wednesday to 13 on
Just
Thursday.
quickly, you trust the bomb too?
I don't, but, finger in the wind's probably not much better. So, look, let's just say we're in the soft range now. There should be a little bit of precipitation, as they call it nowadays, and that should keep it in the soft range. Now, there's a chance we could get to heavy if the full 13 comes. The wind, I don't think, will be a major factor on Saturday. Lanes 3 to 8 is going to be your best ground in the home straight. Coming around the home turn, probably sort of lanes 2 and 3, 1 or 2 horses off the fence is where you want to be. Just in that running line, being able to get into those right lanes. I think it's going to suit stalkers and horses.
Jeffrey Dahmer sort of stuff.
Well, maybe not that kind of a stalker, but horses that can race in the first 5 or 6, Jules, is more what I was thinking.
Okay, very good.
You got something for us?
That's the Randwick Intel punters. Flemington for me, obviously in Victoria. True position the entire circuit here, Nico. Now, good for ? Because we've got rain Thursday night, we've got rain Friday night, and we've got rain, which is the worst possible rain that we can possibly have ever, on race day. Now, again, 0 to 5, 0 to 5, 0 to 5, every one of those days. We get 0, we're on upgraded to a good 3 probably after race 2. We get 5, 5, and then 5 again on the Saturday as it's racing. We're probably going into the soft range, but I'm still predicting I think we stay on the good 4 range. And here's the kicker now that we have to really worry about when we talk about variables in racing. Got 20 to 30 kilometre southwesterly there, but that's probably now kicking up to possibly 40, 45 kilometres an hour. And now we know that's going to have impact. So Flemington, where do we think that sort of happens? If it was a pure southerly, that's great because that's actually a tailwind for those leaders going around that long sweeping home turn. More of a westerly is coming up the straight, so it could be hitting from left flank, sort of coming from that way. I think, again, that could possibly help leaders around the 1,400 metre, 1,600 metre circle races, which usually is not an advantage at Flemington. And then maybe up the straight, I think I'd want to be drawn wide just because I think the way the wind is. Now, we know, obviously, with the intel up the straight, I think middle to wide since probably Liam O'Keefe's took it over probably the last 3 or 4 years. That's been the advantage. So that's been the play. Circle, I'm saying even. Worse than midfield, okay, which is usually the case at Flemington. And I'm also going to say if we get more of a southerly than a westerly, do not be frightened of leaders, which I know I say sometimes, leaders can't win at Flemington. And I know there's always outliers to that. But I think that's how I'm playing Flemington, which is tricky.
It is notoriously one of the worst metro tracks for leaders because of how
100%.
kind the home turn is for the back markers. They get the chance to come in, but you're quite right. For those tuning in, hopefully there's a few of them.
Yes.
The thing about the Melbourne Cup Carnival 2 years ago when Pride of Jenny led on the first day and the second day.
They were all leading.
Southerly win that day as well, or those 2 days.
100%. That's the intel punters for both Randwick and for Flemington, and there's a little bit in it, so you're going to have to take your time with it. All right, mate, so track intel's out of the way. Let's now have a look at our Fox factors. And very quickly for you, just to give you an overview, the punters out there will understand what Fox factors is, but I know that you have no interest in watching this show previously to when you had a previous life wearing that blue stuff. But
Jeez,
what we
really
do is, I actually don't. I really love them. Is we just try and give some insights into how we do the form that might be able to help punters doing their own form.
You've got to give up the secrets.
Sometimes.
Okay. All
Sometimes.
right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're here to help. We're here to help. We're here to help.
Hashtag here to help.
This week I want to focus on 2-year-old racing because we know we're starting to lead into, obviously, the Blue Diamond's actually 1 week away, which is outrageous, to be honest, because I haven't really seen much of a good 2-year-old down here in Melbourne yet. And the Slipper's probably, obviously, maybe just under 2 months away up there in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
So we've just got I just sort of made some points, and then I want to get your thoughts on what you look for. And the first one I sort of came up with was camp. So sort of that trainer combination. Do you have one, or I'm not going to be specific here, but do you think it's important with 2-year-olds more so than older horses to have, camps that are really well educated?
Yeah, I do, because I think there's two parts to that answer. One is the trainers that are prepared to screw the horses down earlier in their career. You've got to have that. So Gai Waterhouse is the first one that comes to mind, the best 2-year-old trainer we've had. The other one is the trainers. The reason why the trainers matter is because they're the ones that go to the sales to buy the 2-year-old pedigrees. And I'm not a breeding buff, but you've got to buy a 2-year-old pedigree generally to get a 2-year-old up and running. So, yes, I do think camps matter. I think the Waterhouse and Bott stable, obviously Chris Waller's just starting to really come into his own with the juveniles. And I think down in Melbourne, I love Anthony and Sam Friedman as well. Their 2-year-olds are very good.
I think and I went and had a back look at this when we thought we were going to do this for Fox Factors. And I went back and I said, okay, let's have a look at, since 2000, who are the camps that have actually won the Blue Diamond? So the grand final, that's what you're talking about when you're down here in Melbourne. There's 3 trainers since 2000, so we're talking 24 years now, that have sort of been off Broadway. Dan Clarkin had Miracles of Life, who was a bit of a freak horse.
Yep.
John Simons, who at the time was very, very strong trainer at Bella Spree, absolute freak, starts $2. And John Selenitri had another one, 3. The rest, your big camps, your Friedmans, your Mick Prices, your Gai Waterhouses, all those ones, the Snowdens in particular, when with Sepoy and Darley in that situation, James Cummings. That's the strength. And I think that's more in 2-year-old racing than in older horses.
100%.
You can get the outlier of it. These ones, I think when you're looking at these horses, who's going to win a diamond, who's going to win a slipper, it's the same with the slipper. You go back 2000, there's probably 3 or 4 trainers that are a little bit off Broadway. The rest are your big camps that you know you can trust. So you're looking for a golden slipper winner and a blue diamond winner. I think your first point of call is someone that's done it before.
100%. And look, I think 2-year-old racing is its own industry. In itself. I think you've got to separate. You rarely see the 2-year-olds take on the older horses. Most of the time, other than towards the back end of the season, they're running between 1,000 and 1,200 metres. If you're really good and stick to your 2-year-old racing, there is money to be made.
Yep.
But you made a good point. I think when you get to the grand finals, outside of the grand finals, the smaller stables can win. But the big sheer numbers that those big stables have that you've just referenced, it means just by sheer numbers, they get to the grand final with the right horse.
Yep. Trials and jump outs. Now, I've been on record as saying I don't watch them, and that's not because I've got disrespect for trials and jump outs. It's just that you've only got a certain amount of time.
You do hate them.
Hate's a strong word. Loathe. Trials and there's only so long you can do your form until you try and find.
I loathe my flight down here.
Yeah, I can sense that. I know. I can't believe you made it. Actually, to be honest.
Anyway. Yeah, sorry.
Do you look at it? I mean, if you do look at them, what do you specifically look for?
Well, obviously the times. You can line the times up in the last 600 metre times. That's available to anyone. You can go to Racing Australia and get that information. Overall time, last 600 metres. Both want to be fairly strong relative to the other 2-year-old races. But for me, when they turn up at the races, it's just as simple as having 2 trials instead of 1.
Okay.
When they've had 2 trials, particularly in Sydney, look for them to have it over 900 metres at Rose Hill, or if they've had a 1,000-metre trial at Randwick. I just think it's a better grounding. When they've had those little silly 747-metre trials and they've had 1 or 2 of them, not as much.
Okay.
Distance of the trials, number of the trials, make sure it's in the same prep. Couple of ticks there.
Okay, very good. As I said, don't look at them a lot, but when I do look at them, I want to see a change of speed.
Yeah.
So those horses that can win an 800-metre jump out because they go fast from go to woe, they don't impress me much. Whereas more the ones that actually correct. Yeah, she was a belter. Yeah. Probably still is. Anyway, we move on. So that's the key. I want to see a change of face.
I'm hoping that
gear changes.
An editing of Shania Twain after
gear
this.
Gear changes. Anything with 2-year-olds.
We'll have a Shania Twain segment. Anyway, gear changes. Look, the obvious one, blinkers first time.
Yep.
I remember Cav stuck him on the horse at about 40-1 in the Blue Diamond about 20 years ago now, and it did the trick. Blinkers first time. Obviously, you don't get many returning to the races at gelding in the 2-year-old season. They're the 2 main ones for me.
Yep. I think tongue tie is an interesting one because usually if you get a blinkers first time, tongue tie first time, they're there to rock and roll. They don't want to leave anything to chance. But again, not too sort of
Peter Moody.
Markets
nose roll off.
Yeah, correct.
It's a big call for him.
You wouldn't see too many 2-year-olds with the nose roll, would you? Market support. How important? Because I think that's really critical.
I think, look, on debut, if you get any horse resuming from a spell, market support's a really good sign. It's probably the most effective sign in racing, I think, or unless they're stepping up to a new distance for the first time.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, it is pretty important, but I don't know if it's probably a little bit more important than your older horses, but it's not crazy. Because the market, Jules, I find the market with horses that are very young, the market's still working out where they sit.
First 3 or 4 starts, please do not ever talk about, I don't think people should talk about starting price profile when they're 3 or 4 starts in. Dulcify started 101 on debut.
Correct.
So, it's just, it doesn't, look, I don't think it's any guide at all to your first 4 or 5 starts, and then you can start thinking about it. So, I think that you make a really good point there with that market support. Barriers.
Every now and then I get it right.
No, good. Barriers. Anything.
Well, look, for me, inside 2-year-olds, when you go out to track work, which I had the pleasure of being the what do you call it, the clocker at Randwick for a couple of years there.
Definitely said clocker, yeah.
Clocker.
Yeah, go on. Get on with it.
Very loosely used term. You're watching Gay train her 2-year-olds, they follow a rail and they're taught to follow the rail. So with barriers for 2-year-olds, I think it's more important for them.
Yep.
I like to be able to follow a rail, and you'll see a lot of 2-year-olds lug back towards the rail, whichever direction they're going. It's not necessarily because they're tired. It's just they're taught to follow that rail in track work. So when they get to the races for the first start or even their second start, they're still looking for that rail. It's a bit of comfort for them. And that's why, you look at Rivellino, who won for Chris Lees. Now, it didn't smash the clock last weekend in the Millennium, but the fact that it was able to come down the centre part of the track shows that horse or that juvenile's got a bit of race sense.
Yeah, that's good. As I stated, don't usually play in 2-year-old races. I will not play in 2-year-old races where there's unraced horses, but I love betting into the Blue Diamond. I love betting into the Golden Slipper because I've seen all the exposed form, and then I can decide where I think the horse is going to be able to continue to improve. They're coming out of the right races, that kind of stuff. So do like betting in 2-year-old races, but I want to see the exposed form all the way through. Hey, punters, that was Fox Factors. It went a long time, but I think there's some nuggets of gold in it from this pod. All right, Fox Factors out of the way. Let's get my friend to the Group 1 set. And this week it is the Lightning Stakes at Flemington. So we've got the market for the Lightning Stakes, obviously, from PointsBet Switzerland, who resumes. Look, to be honest, 3-year-old colts actually to dominate this market. Switzerland favourite. Growing Empire has been well supported. Traffic Warden been a little bit soft since early sort of Wednesday night. See what happens with it. And then you go out to sort of the mare I Am Me. Bit of support for her, sort of double figures in. It's a fascinating race because it always is, because we know for these colts, the value is so high. So people can sometimes go, oh, are they trying, having the bowling around? I can tell you that the 3 colts are definitely trying.
It's the only Group 1 1,000-metre race on the Australian calendar.
There you go.
We breed for speed. It's crazy when you think about it from that angle. And I think this was part of the Global Sprint Challenge. I don't know if it still is, but it's a big sort of – the horse that wins this is usually – looked upon as a Royal Ascot prospect as well. So, and you look like a horse like Switzerland, being owned by Coolmore, they probably love that dual hemisphere. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But 2 of the last 10 favourites are won. 2 of the last 3 have been 3-year-olds. But if you go back before that, you've got to go right back to 2005 before you get the last 3-year-old to have won this race.
Yeah, okay.
So it's been good in the last couple of years, but there was a big run of outs there for the youngsters in this race. But, geez, can he get back to that figure of the Coolmore?
And that's the key. So I think your 3-year-old's comment is valid, is that I think recently they've started to pick up. I mean, last year I think Cylinder gets beaten, runs 6th or something. He's $18, okay? But ones that are pointing into the market, Coolangatta wins 2 years ago at $9. Home Affairs wins, and I think everyone thinks Home Affairs and Switzerland are sort of like 2 of the same, just about the same horse, same ownership, all that kind of stuff. September Run runs 2nd 1 year. I think Swats that ran 3rd the same year. Loving Gabby runs 3rd and Sunlight runs 3rd as well. All hard in the market, but not being able to win as 3-year-olds, but all running really, really well. And, had horses like Nature Strip and those kinds of things kicking around at that stage as well. How do you see the race evolve?
Well, I think Growing Empire probably is the furthest forward of those 3-year-olds, and so he'll be likely to be quite prominent. And then Switzerland, J-Mac will probably look to sit to the outside, getting that cover from the wind. I think he's drawn perfectly to get the right run.
Yep.
He maps really well. Don't know what they do with Traffic Warden. I think the mounting yard, aptly named mounting yard, because he likes to swing his, what along. Anyone who saw him in the mounting yard for the Golden Rose will know that he was right off thinking about his prospects post-racing career.
Yep.
And then the one that's probably going to come back and around them, I thought might be Benedetta. I don't think she's hopeless in this race. really keen to see what the market does with her.
Yeah.
Long break, but she's a good fresh horse. And I think 1,000 metres will suit her style.
Inside draw. Is that?
I think she comes back and around.
Yeah, but that's you got to be a really good horse to be able to do that, don't you?
Well, Amelita did it in the Red Roses in the spring, but she might have had a bit on that field. She resumes in the light fingers. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Plenty of space. Up the straight, we can get a metre. So there's two factors here. 1,000-metre race, everyone goes, they're going to go fast. So especially if this is around a bend at Moonee Valley or Caulfield, we know they're going fast.
Yep.
We have this also ability with jockeys, they like to sit up at Flemington. And you get the first 400 sometimes that just is a bit of a dawdle. And then there's that last 3 furlong where they really zip home. But there's plenty of speed in this race. And the reason why I'm talking about this, because I think the speed is important, because my feeling is Switzerland is a horse that really appreciates a fast run race. And that's where his best numbers, for me anyway, have come from. So if they do dawdle that first 400, I think he's vulnerable. But if they do go fast, he's probably the A1, is it?
Yeah, I think so. That Coolmore Stud Stakes, I mean, that was a really fast run race. And he went through the roof. He beat them. He spanked them by 3 lengths. He's only got to run up to that figure and he's the one to beat. But like I said, I thought Benedetta, I know it's a low percentage play, but if she can get a bit of covering behind him and weave her way through, she's kind of a nippy style of horse. And then look, only in the last sort of 6 hours have I started coming around a bit to Growing Empire just because he's got the ability to put himself up there.
Yep.
But all will matter to me on that westerly or southwesterly or southerly wind.
Yeah.
Where's the wind at right before the lightning stakes? You'd love one of the broadcasters to have a sock up so you can see where it's at. And I think on days like this, I'd love to see, Channel7racing.com, whoever it might be, actually having the socks so they can show you exactly where the wind is right before they jump. That's the intel that I'd like to see from a broadcaster.
That is a brilliant point because, yes, we can say here that it's going to be up to a 45-kilometre southwesterly. It ain't going to be a 45-kilometre southwesterly all day. No. Some part of that might be a southerly. Some part of that 2 minutes before the race might be a complete westerly. And that is going to have major impacts on these races, in particular the lightning stakes. I think what you've said is really important, but I don't think we're going to see it. But it is really good intel if we could get that.
A message. He'll be able to organise it.
He actually might be able to.
He can organise anything.
Correct. So that is, are you going to play in the race? Very quickly.
Not early. No, I'll be playing on the day when I get a bit of a pattern at the death. Yeah,
possibly Benedetta, possibly Switzerland.
I think Benedetta at a place at 340, regardless of what the wind's doing, I think she can get the cover she needs anyway.
Yep.
So I'm happy to take that 340 points bet best price in the market on her running a drum.
Yep.
That'll be my early play, and then I'll sit and wait and back something to win, probably Switzerland. What about you?
Won't play in the race. We'll get to the price of Switzerland later in a segment called Pin the Tail, but I couldn't really find an edge in the way I priced this race, but that's the Group 1 set, punters. All right, mate, now it's your time to shine.
It doesn't feel like it.
New South Wales set. Take it away. I'm not going to say a word. You just go for it.
Okay, race 6, number 2, commemorative. Now, I don't like the barrier. She's a massive mare, this one. She could have been in 21B.
Yeah.
And look, to be fair, she's trialled up nicely. I thought in the spring she did a great job. She started $2.50 against Komochi, subsequent Group 1 winner when she resumed. And then she started about $3.60 against Jimmy Star in that 1,100-metre race at Caulfield, which rated through the roof. She ran in 2 hot races. She was beaten both times, but not by far. And I just think, first up here, James will be looking to kick off on a winning note. I think she's hugely progressive. The only query is where she gets to in the run. I'm hoping she holds leaders back.
Yep.
Bonita Queen probably leads for the informed Bjorn Baker.
Airborne, yeah.
38% strike rate.
Yeah.
Profitability about 70% or something. Yeah. So I'm hoping Bonita Queen sort of rolls along. Commemorative grabs her back. Not too much rain. I know she's 3 from 3 in the soft, but I think her figures show that she's better on top of the ground. So she'll do me there around the 550 mark. Race 8, number 5, Via Sistina, best bet of the day. I know it looks easy and simple. She was floating around 220, 225 on Wednesday. It's a good race, but here's the thing. 1,400-metre start point at Randwick is probably the trickiest start point. They jump at the top corner. They sort of do a little half turn down the side, and then they turn into the home straight. Traditionally, you don't want to be drawn too wide. Now, I know this is not a big field, so no one's going to be right out wide, but it's going to be a game of tactics. It's a weight for age, early carnival race. It's all a tactical battle. They always are. And she's got the option of being in the right spot, 1 out, 1 back, or 1 out, 2 back if they go on with it. Her main danger for me is Cheerwolf, and he's trialled up. There was a little bit of intent in that trial where he led her and skipped away. She was closing late. I just think that they've got to show their hand early. Chad's going to have to go forward on Cheerwolf and sit outside lead if he wants to try and win the race. But if he does that, he leaves himself vulnerable late in the piece, and more importantly, vulnerable late in the carnival as well. Yeah. So I'm with Via Sistina there. I think Fangirl, I don't think she's the same horse as she was. Yep. The only caveat I put on all that is Waller may have just taken his time with her last preparation off the back of that injury last autumn, and she might be going to fire this prep, but I don't think she will. Last but not least, if the rain comes and we get 12 or 13 mil, and the lucky last is one from your neck of the woods, Victoria, coming up called El Rocco. Yeah. Number 4, he's a mad wet tracker. He's got the best peak figure in the race. It was on a heavy track. Don't know if we get there, but anything worse than a 6, and he's right and play, and you're getting $34 about him.
That is very, very tasty. So there's 3 selections from Nico for the New South Wales set, and that race 8 that Nico did speak about with Via Sistina, Chow Wolf, Fangirl. That's as good a race as you'll see, and yes, it is only a Group 2 Apollo Stakes, but it just sets up how amazing this autumn carnival does have, or what could actually be if they can all get to further races down the track. That's Nico's New South Wales set. Now we'll head to my Victorian set, which is Flemington. I'll say off the top, I found this meeting really, really tricky, but we still have had a punt in the first. Number 13, a horse called Tavu, really lightly raced horse, only had 7 goes. Now, there's some nice horses in this race, but they've all just got half a knock on them that I'm happy to take them on. This horse quickly gets to 2,000 metres, so I might be half a run off here, Nico, or even 1 run off. But I'm just happy that this horse will roll forward. Both of its wins, obviously last start at Pakenham, just in a fillies and mares race, rated okay with me. I thought the Sale Maiden, last prep at 1,700 metres, rated really well with me. I think it's a horse that's going to love getting to 2,000 metres and beyond. I just think on speed, I like the senior jockey going on, 54 kilos, might just give them something to chase. And if we can get that subtly sort of kicking up as well, it might be hard to run down at a big price. Race 3, number 3, Fancify. Just Flemington, 1,400 metres. Yes. Big number over the Flemington Carnival. Absolutely blew the doors off the numbers there. Last start behind She's Bulletproof, that number went great as well. I just think it controls. And again, a race that's got some depth. But I just thought Molly Bloom and Plenty of Ammo are first up. They might just be half a run or 3/4 of a run short, and Fancify can really take advantage of that. Fancify is not a horse that's going to sit up and then explode. Fancify is going to bust you between the 8 and the 400. And I think that is what Fancify can do. So I'm happy to back it in race 3. And in race 5, number 6, a horse called She's All Shenanigans. Sort of went off the boil sort of last prep, but come back really well. 2 runs again. She's Bulletproof behind it. Won the start prior. Won up the straight as I think in one of its really early starts. I'm happy to back it each way. She's All Shenanigans. I think it has drawn the right part of the track out wide. That's my Flemington Victorian set, punters. Snap or don't snap, my friend Nico. So here we're just trying to identify horses that we think either you should snap now and take the price, have the bet, or just don't snap. Now, we're not saying these horses can't win. We just think there's probably going to be at some stage between now and the time these gates open, you're going to get a better price than is currently available in the marketplace. So I'll let you kick off, mate, because yours are in a little bit more earlier races than me. At Randwick, what do you got for me?
Randwick race 4, number 1, Yorkshire's been probably the form horse of Sydney Metro in recent times. He loses J-Mac and gets Anaropa on. Now, I'm really interested to have this discussion because normally when someone like J-Mac, who's the world's best jockey, jumps off and you get a 3-kilo apprentice on a Saturday Metro, the market just goes, out you go.
Yeah.
Out you go.
It's a really good point. We call it the J-Mac tax for a reason.
J-Mac tax and also then the 3-kilo apprentice. But Anaropa is riding at 20% in recent times with an ROI of 88, well, profit on turnovers of 88% for her last 100 rides. Okay. So she is going as good as any 3-kilo claimer. So I'm interested to see what happens. That said, big field, Randwick Mile coming off, it's sort of got to step up. That's a hard mile there. 240, I'm saying don't snap on it.
Yep.
Then a little bit, the next race is Jolie Star resumes. Now, Jolie Star blew the clock up when she resumed in the spring over this track and trip. It was on a good firm deck. And she just went whooshka, ran 33.02 or something last.
It was actually mind-blowing, wasn't it, what she did that day?
Unbelievable. Never got back to that for the whole prep, but did race well. The reason why I'm saying just sit on the fence at 235 is because if that rain comes, you'll probably get closer to $3 because she won't be able to show that acceleration. She can still win, and I'd still back her to win. But I think you'll get a better price.
Very good. So there's 2 there, just especially with the asterisks with Jolly Star. I think the heavens might be the key there and what's inside those clouds. For me, 2 later in the day, race 9, it's a New Zealand filly. Now, I know she's a Group 1 winner, a Group 2 winner and a Group 3 winner. Her name's Captured by Love. But I just think the market's really found her around that $4.60, $4.80. I've marked her a bit bigger than that. Yes, I think she can win. She gets Blake Shin. She gets probably a really cute draw. But I just think you can keep your powder dry. You might get better than that $4.60, $4.80 on offer at the moment. And in the last race, really impressive winner here, Nico, first up, horse called Something in My Pocket. It's around $3 at the moment. And yes, I think it's the best horse in the race. It's drawn gate 1. Every time this horse has sort of ran its best figures, it's got to the outside of horses and then been able to explode. Gate 1, it doesn't have the ability to be able to sit forward. In all its runs, they just haven't been able to find a spot. So that means at least 3 back rail, possibly 4 back rail. And if I'm taking $3 about a horse, I want more factors in my favour than just that. And then if the rain does come, does inside go off? And again, I think you're going to get better than $3. So just those two, again, I think they're just about probably the best horses in the race. But I think if you are going to back them, wait, you'll get a better price. Hence why you get more cash in your pocket. Hence why we do snap or don't snap. Favourite segment here, Nico, pin the tail. So this is where we have a educated guess prediction of what we think the biggest talking horse of the race or of the day will be. We decided to go with Switzerland in the Lightning Stakes.
Did you play pin the tail on the donkey as a kid? Did you?
Absolutely.
Did you enjoy that too?
I don't know if I really enjoyed it. Probably didn't.
You would have
enjoy
been a lollybag man, wouldn't you?
Oh, I really enjoyed the lollybag. Yeah. Sometimes. Anyway, that's
a story for another time.
That is another story.
Let's get back to the horses.
Let's get back to Switzerland and pin the tail. So, what did I decide to do here? So I've given it just about its max, Switzerland, but I just thought there was enough depth in the race with Growing Empire. Traffic Warning I'm a little bit soft on compared to the market. I Am Me, I've sort of got, given a pretty good winning chance. And I think there's a lot of dead wood in the race too, so you can sort of get them out. But the best I could come up with for Switzerland is $3.80. So that's my prediction for Switzerland. I understand all the narrative around he's a Coolmore horse. He's worth so much more if he wins. They'll want to win this and they'll probably announce straight away that they go to Royal Ascot. Home Affairs did it 3 years ago. This just wins because of all factors that we've just spoken about. But it doesn't make them run faster. And I get that he's wound up. There is no doubt. There is intent there. But there is intent with I Am Me. There is intent with Growing Empire. And there is intent with Traffic Warden, who might not be good enough. And yes, what he did in the Coolmore was outstanding because he's got to do it over 1,000 and he's got to do it possibly not in a super fast run race. So that's $3.80 for me, mate.
Yeah, I think the making sure all the speed in the race stays in the race is going to be the key. So if you wake up Saturday morning, there's some of the paces come out of the race and he probably drifts more. I've kept him at $3. I think he'll get out a bit towards that 380 that you've got him at, maybe 350, 360. But I reckon they'll hammer him back in. I was going to send over 325, but I stayed at $3. I just think Traffic Warden, Growing Empire probably get a kind of weight in the Newmarket handicap when they go there, particularly Traffic Warden. But they also Traffic Warden brings a tighter SP than Switzerland from when they met in the spring a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
That's going to play a role in this. These have both got exposed form now. So I think he'll get out of touch, but I think they'll back him back in. That 1,000-metre victory that he had on debut rated very well, Switzerland.
Yes.
And I actually formed the opinion of him when he was a 2-year-old that he couldn't run 1,200 metres.
Okay.
Now, maybe as a 2-year-old he couldn't, but he certainly can now as a 3-year-old. We know that. But nonetheless, getting back to this race, I think the 1,000 metres, I think it'll suit him. I think he'll be fine.
Yep.
And he'll hold up.
And as you did mention, Traffic Warden had sort of the SP over him in those races, that Coolmore SPs.
Yep.
So Switzerland $5.50, Growing Empire $4. Growing Empire started favourite $3.80, and Traffic Warden was $4.20. So again, I think it's going to be very, very different after what we saw from Switzerland. And Traffic Warden just worries me a little bit. I think I've marked him about $8.50. I just don't know where he's sort of at, to be honest.
The wind is one factor that we mentioned. The other factor is whether or not his mind is on the game.
Yeah.
If it is, then he can be in the mix. But, by Joe, I tell you what, on Switzerland, though, that figure he ran in the Coolmore, that's what they're going to be judging him on Saturday.
100%. Yeah.
So the SP going into it loses a bit of relevance.
Oh, absolutely, and absolutely. There's no way.
Not a lot.
No, absolutely. They'll be that's the number they'll have for him, and they'll be happy to probably launch into that same track. Yes, it's 200 metres less, but the intent's there, so they're probably going to be happy with that. That was Pin the Tail this week. Switzerland was the horse. New segment here, punters. Best of the rest. So every week you're going to come, most likely every week. Some weeks you might not. With one just around off Broadway a little bit that we think you should be pointing into the direction of the punters. And it might not be that this is the race that they're going to win, but to keep an eye on maybe for future. And you've gone Friday, Sunny Coast, my boy.
Yeah, I do a bit of work with the Proven Thoroughbreds guys. There's a horse at the filly that they've had called Cartwheels, which they were adamant would be a sort of a mile or maybe even beyond. When I look at her sectionals, I think she's just a sprinter, maybe 1,400-metre horse who gets back and runs through the line. She needs a soft pace when she gets out towards those extra distances. She resumes on Friday night. Maddie Hoysted's put a set of blinkers on first up.
Okay.
Now, I suspect with the rail out...
First time or again for this horse?
First time.
Okay, interesting.
So I reckon you'll find there's a bit of intent to see if she can make it as a sprinter this preparation. Yep. She's probably going to be trained a bit differently, a little bit more, a little bit more sort of sprint work rather than trying to build the miles into her legs. Now, whether she's drawn a yuck barrier, rails out, probably has to go back. So I don't know if Friday night would definitely be her night. Look for her to be charging home and keep an eye out for her in the coming weeks. Something out wide for you.
Nic's. Best of the rest. We love that. So look forward to that every week. Another segment that is new this year is our boy from Foxcatcher, our boy from PointsBet, Daisy Thomas. He is launching himself into this racing game right now, Nico, and every week it's going to be a Daisy's declaration. Daisy, what do we got? Now, Daisy's at Live Golf, so you can see he's going to be taking this very seriously this week. So we'll put an asterisk on this week, Daisy, but what do you got for us, boy?
The first of Daisy Declares or Daisy's Declarations, call it what you will. I'll tell you what's happening. I'll be spruiking one. It will be winning. And if it's not, you'll see the whiteboard at some point. I'll be telling you why with zero responsibility. We go to race 8 tomorrow at Randwick. Ooh. We look at the Apollo Stakes. Via Sistina, $2. Yes. On the nose. No, thank you. Go to the second horse in the market there. Fangirl. Go back to their first up race, last prep, both of them. Via Sistina wins by half a length, goes round. Not a horse. Hugs the inside, no worries. Found girl, checked, off heels, down the middle, loses by half a length. Tomorrow, tables turned, Fangirl wins, Via Sistina out the door. There's your first Daisy Declares.
All right, thanks for that, Daisy. We'll see you next week in the studio, which I look forward to because you've decided that after every week, you are then going to go through why that horse won or why that horse lost and how it's not your fault if it did lose. So I'm going to be looking forward to your real post-analysis of these races.
On Twitter with that kind of attitude. Wasn't my fault.
Yeah, correct. All right, that's the Daisy's declaration. Thanks, Daisy. Let's now get to our plays of the day. We're nearly near the end here, Nico. I'll start us off because we like to go racebook order in how we have these. But race 3 for me, it is Fancify. It's had the one run under the belt. A few of the others might be a little bit soft in condition. I think we roll forward from that gate. I think we take the guts out of our opposition from the 8 to the 400. And we keep on rolling. Best figures have always been at Flemington, especially that 1,400 metres Cup Carnival last year. It was nothing short of breathtaking. So I'm keen Fancify at Flemington. Where are you going for?
Yeah, Apollo Stakes Via Sistina. I know it's a bit boring, but she ran the best last 200 metres of the day when she resumed in the Wing Stakes. That's what she had to do to win that race, and she did. And then from there, she went on to prove to be the best horse in the land. For mine, she's only got one horse to beat. That's Cheer Wolf, and I think the map favours her. So black figures are good figures for mine.
Very good. Boring indeed for Via Sistina, but that's not what Nic Ashman is. And that has been our first crack at the Foxcatcher Show for 2025. Great to have you on board.
Self-rated, what did we get? Booking.com, you self-rate yourself.
Do you self-rate yourself?
I don't know. You can maybe rate us or something.
No, we'll let others do that. We'll let others put that on our tombstone.
Thanks for having me.
Good. You'll be back next
from Sydney.
Now, from now on, you'll be in Sydney because I think it's best you keep an eye on those people up in Sydney.
Well, and 21C, someone else is going to have to take that
correct.
spot.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll be very happy about it. So we'll see you next week, punters. Have a good week. Good luck. Enjoy. And hopefully we do see you because sometimes bad things happen.